Welcome to the Boston Art Podcast,
Boston's premier art podcast,
where we talk art, culture, and philosophy.
My name is Theodore Earthworms.
And I am Brian Huntress.
Welcome to the show.
So they'll take us down.
Here's the Karl Stevens catalog, if you want to flip through them.
Yeah, wow. So you are quite prolific as far as the graphic novels go.
Yeah, like these are the early ones.
Awesome.
Which is like so fucking cool to like,
These are the last, like the new ones.
you know,
So the two Mother Natures. This is the one that Jamie wanted, but like the publisher didn't go for it, so they ended up going with this one.
oh, she wanted this
Yeah.
bloody cover. Wow, so this is pretty
So, like, it's
unseen. This is a rare
Yeah.
rare edition of this, huh?
It is, yeah. They just made 100 copies.
Oh,
And
that's so sick.
So like last year when we debuted it at San Diego Comic-Con, they made like 100 copies for Jamie.
Yeah.
They like sold them for like $100, dollars each, and like we all signed them.
That's
Oh, that's
sick.
cool.
So, like
So-
they donated the money to this water, this like Navajo like water resiliency project thing.
That's sick. So what is that, a giant stone, or is it, here, you can look, Theo.
Thanks.
Is it like a crystal that's
No, see-
destroying?
Like in the book, it's about this energy company that fucks over this town. So it's like it's called a horse head. It's it's like an oil rig. So like the oil rig
Oh, I see.
falls
Okay.
down and then crushes his head.
Right. It's a frame from the
Yeah.
actual story.
Yeah, and I use myself as a model. This
Oh,
character.
okay.
It's very symbolic. It's
Very Caravaggio.
yeah.
Yeah, because I think he painted himself being beheaded or something like that. Is that what it is?
Really?
Or as John the Baptist's head.
Oh, that was a self-portrait.
I think he used himself as a model. Whatever. Fuck it. Nerdy stuff anyway.
But yeah, no. But that's what I mean. It's called a horse's head.
Yeah.
So to talk about the actual frames, I mean, these I feel like it's really common in the graphic novel world. One that I'm not totally familiar with, to have like very digital kind of aesthetics, but these feel really, really tactile and like traditional medium. Is that the case, or is it very cleverly designed?
Well, I can show you the originals.
Oh, I'd love to see them.
Yeah. Actually, I don't like traditional versus digital. I
Yeah.
use actual versus simulated.
Okay, I like that.
So I use actual materials. For one of the main reasons is that I can sell the originals.
Yeah.
Obviously, since I still
Oh
have them.
God, that
Those are
is
so
gorgeous.
nice.
So this is like the first book that I did. It's called Guilty, and
So this is the whole book. This is the manuscript.
yeah,
In this box here.
Yeah,
I'm actually blown.
These are the originals. So I did this when I was 25.
Okay. How does it work with the font, like with the text bubbles? Because they're unbelievably uniform, and it looks like actual Comic Sans.
Yeah, it's hand lettered.
That's fucking
wow.
crazy, man. Do you use Do you use like one of those is it like an old school poster drawing tool with the lettering, or are you just actually going freehand with the text?
No, I can show you.
Oh, cool. We're seeing all of the tricks of the trade
I
here
love
with
this.
the graphic noveling.
Here, I can just do a book of that.
Oh yeah, shall we come check it? Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I can bring it out, but we could walk around the corner if you
Hell
want.
yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I
So
used
it's like
one of
a-
these things. I mean,
Oh,
I like discovered it, like a long time ago, because I used to work at an art supply store,
Okay.
and it's very simple and dumb. So you just kind of trace that, and then I always put a line in the middle.
Oh.
It kind of reminds me of that old
So,
paper they teach
yeah.
penmanship with.
Yeah, exactly. So just write my name. So, but like the idea, or like the trick to like good comic book lettering, is to get all the horizontals of the letter. So you got to think about the letters as shape, as like drawings too, and then
Yeah.
like all the, like verticals. So so like the E's have to like, line up, so that way it keeps it uniform. So like I always do everything in pencil first, and then I go over it with ink. So
Yeah,
it's actually
and
egomaniac. But yeah.
And
Wow.
But like I didn't use this type of pen. I forgot what I used back then.
Right.
It's probably like a Uniball or something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's like you literally write. Your writing looks like it's typed, which is that's very interesting.
Oh,
Was
I see
that,
the inconsistencies. I mean,
right? Yeah.
you know.
Huh. So
Yeah.
how does the drafting for so an author and like a novelist would be writing many drafts and tossing shit out and cutting stuff out. Like how does that editing and that self-editing work with something this serious? Like,
Well, these are just the final pages. So, I mean, like, there is like a ton of work that goes into it, like, beforehand. So, I mean, like, my process is, like, it is just as complex. I mean, sometimes I'll start with, like, a full script, like, write it out like a film script, and then I'll take that, and then I'll do what's called a thumbnail, which is basically, like, a very loose kind of storyboard to, like, sketch out the like flow of the story with images, and then once I have that pretty much mapped out, then I'll like hire or like get my friends to like model, and then that becomes like the second stage. And I'll like take all those like photos, and then I'll just use them along with the sketched out thumbnails to like compose. But so I mean I'm like looking at the photos and like drawing them, or sometimes I don't, like they are just kind of like referenced. So
are these real people with faces?
Yeah, for like this book, these were like my actual friends that I was hanging out with at the time. I mean, like I'm still friends with them 20 years later. But yeah, I mean, this is very close to home. I mean, it was, like this is my old apartment in Lower Alston where I lived for 6 years. And so like the idea for the story was, I mean, it was just about, like a romance in Alston. And this actually led to me getting a like regular comic strip for this newspaper that no longer exists in Boston called The Phoenix. Have you guys heard of The Phoenix?
Yeah.
So I did like a weekly comic strip for them for about 7.5 years.
That's cool.
But like the original conceit was that it was gonna kind of riff off of this story, that it would just be a bunch of 20-somethings like living in Alston.
Yeah.
And was that you at the time when you made this?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, that's self-portrait.
Oh, excellent. I love your haircut.
This was very much, I know, it's very 2004 or 5.
Epic.
I mean, like this was my life, I was just like wasted all the time.
Yeah.
So, it was very like regrettable, but
are you familiar with the term indie twee? Or indie sleaze?
Sure, yeah.
It's kind of funny because it's this like weird micro trend that people refer to from this specific time period, and it's captured perfectly by these models and these people.
Oh, thanks. Yeah,
the aesthetics, even her haircut and your haircut, frankly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is funny how like
I love the aesthetics.
Things kind of age that way. But then, anyways, so this book is a collection of like the first 3 years of the Alston stories.
Oh, cool.
And then I branch out and do like paintings, like that's in a museum. I wish I still had that one.
Which museum is that in?
Like Ohio State, like Billy Ireland's.
Cool.
So
yeah, beautiful figurative works. And these are these oil paintings or
these are watercolors.
Oh wow!
Oh wow, that's awesome.
So,
yeah, I feel like you were the envy and inspiration of every young comic artist, because I feel like so many people have aspirations to make comics and graphic novels and stuff, but it's so difficult to reach this level of commitment where like, because for people that don't know what this looks like listening, sorry to break the fourth wall a little bit, but these are like very look to me like extremely time consuming, very realistic ink drawings.
yeah.
with looks to be very, very dense writing. Like they're like these aren't like this is no silent graphic novel. It's very, you wrote these.
I did, yeah. I was probably, like 24, 25 when I did this book. And I was living in Alston. I was working at the Harvard Art Museums as a security guard, but I had such a cush job there where I was like sitting at like the entrance. Like I was in the galleries, but like I also had like a desk job. Yeah. So I was able to like draw like while I was on post.
Yeah.
So, it was good. So like I was able to, get, like part of this book done there.
That's sick.
So yeah, I mean, I was just really, I mean, I've like always been driven. I mean, like ever since I was like a kid, I mean, like I first discovered comics, like, everyone when I was, like,
a youngin'.
like a child, like seeing them in newspapers, Garfield and Calvin and Hobbes and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I was just, but I like grew up, like in a small town in Massachusetts.
North Shore or South Shore?
No, actually, like Central Mass.
Oh, okay,
West.
cool.
I mean, I was born in Concord, and then we lived in Maynard.
Okay.
And then
Nice.
we moved to Westminster, and then I went to high school in Gardner. And
Do you hike a lot?
no, I don't. I mean,
a lot of good trails around there.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, I mean, I would go there, but I mean, I was definitely. I mean, like my family didn't really have like any interest in art, and we were, pretty lower middle class. My father was a high school math and science teacher, and my mother stayed at home. And like I'm one of three boys, and my father, was more into sports and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then, but I was a mediocre athlete, and
Where do they want you to play?
no, I mean, like I played football like my freshman year, but then like after, and I got my ass handed to me many
Sure.
times, and
Big guys out there.
yeah, and but I mean, like my older brother was more of the athlete, so but when I had that realization, I just kind of quickly like became more and more inward, and got into art, and like I had a really great art teacher, and he turned me on to a lot of art history, and encouraged me, and like kind of really focused me, and then when the time came that I could finally escape the shitty hometown, I went to art school. I went to Montserrat College of Art first.
Yeah, I have a friend who went there.
Oh, were you like
nice.
living around Salem or Beverly or something?
Yeah, I mean, I was living in the dorms, which were really nice, actually.
Wow.
And it was in Beverly. But then I had to leave because of financial aid. And so I went home, and like I worked for another year or two. And then I saved up enough for another semester, but I transferred to Leslie because I wanted to live in Boston.
I went to Leslie. That's so
Oh,
funny.
you did? Oh, great.
For the semester until financial aid.
Oh, nice. Yeah, same thing. Yeah. Were you in fine arts?
Yes.
Okay.
Fine arts and psychology.
Oh, okay.
I'm actually currently finishing in an online school right now. So I left for a while. The pandemic kind of fucked that up a little bit too.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
It's okay. That's how it goes.
That's a good segue. Like, did you know Anthony Pesos?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I was only at Leslie for 2 semesters. So
Oh, okay.
I originally was at Quincy College.
Oh, nice.
So yeah.
Was he a professor?
He was a professor, and he just retired recently. So like I was just there for a semester, and I dropped out again for financial reasons.
Yeah.
But I stayed friends with him, and he was like very like generous with his time. So he would come by my apartment / studio, and he would help me out with like whatever I was working on. I mean like he was he's not like a comic guy. It was like all about painting. I mean like painting is like something that I am very also do. Like I have a show coming up
Yeah.
in Provincetown, like just paintings. But like I've always felt that like my paintings like inform the comics, and like vice versa. Like it's always kind of been this like push-pull thing. And like as I went on, like I would incorporate more painting into like the comics, like as like a narrative. But anyway, so then I got a job. I worked at an art supply store that no longer exists called Pearl Art and Craft. That was in Central Square.
Huh.
And that was kind of pivotal too. I mean, because I was able to. It was very, very loose there. I mean, you could get free supplies, like with your 5-finger discount, or,
right.
If like you wanted to be legit about it, you would ask the boss. Like he was
Yeah.
like a very like loose, like liberal guy.
That's awesome.
So, and it was kind of anarchy there, and it's not surprising that they went out of business. But that was good because, I was only making like $6 an hour, so I couldn't really afford, like a lot of supplies. So, I was able to, I got the hookup. But then I got fired from there, and then I ended up working at the Harvard Art Museums, And, you know, like I said, it was, you know, I mean, it was great because it was like, in a way, like continuing like my art education, you know, being there, because like they're such a teaching museum, and you know they, you know, I mean, like just their collection, you know, as I'm sure you know, is, you know, pretty incredible, and
It's a beautiful,
especially their
beautiful place.
you know, drawing and prints department too. And, you know, like everyone's just, you know, very encouraging, and like you're in this like art bubble, you know, it's not like the real world. So it was like, you know, kind of everything that I wanted when I was in my 20s. And, you know, so I was living in Alston, but, you know, like I always had these ambitions that I wanted to do these longer graphic novels. Because, you know, like I'd been a student of, you know, comics, like since I can remember, you know, like when I was a teenager, you know, I just discovered, you know, art comics, and, you know, really, really like went hard. I mean, like any extra money I had, you know, I would spend on, you know, comics, and, you know, like I would like write to cartoonists that I liked, and
cool.
like strike up friendships. And, you know, like there were like local conventions, you know, like once I got my license, I would come into Boston and go to like all the conventions. I mean, like at the time, it, you know, there wasn't like a lot of arty farty stuff, but like there was, the Words and Pictures Museum, which was in Northampton, which was this comic book museum that was started by Kevin Eastman, who was one of the Ninja Turtles guys.
No way.
Yeah, because like Mirage Studios, like the Ninja Turtles were like started in Northampton.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And actually, there's like another connection too, with that. But anyways, but the like museum is like was like Kevin's like collection.
Yeah.
Like he, you know, used like a lot of his turtle millions to, you know, buy like a lot of great like original art. So he had this, you know, I mean, it was kind of like the size of the Gardner.
Yeah.
You know, it was about, you know, like 3 or 4 floors, and it was just jam packed of, you know, like comics history, like on the wall.
Wow.
So as soon as I got my license, you know, I just would drive there almost every weekend, and you know, they would have, you know, artists there like doing signings. Like I got to meet like a lot of my, you know, heroes and stuff. So
that's cool.
It was very like I was very like fortunate to have that, you know.
Is it not around anymore?
No, I mean, it actually closed like in the late 90s. I mean, it was only open for maybe 6 years, I want to say.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was just bleeding money.
Yeah. I feel like so many of those spaces that are so like impactful for the people that get to experience them inherently are just so temporary.
Yeah. I know, it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just like a little too early, because it seems like now there's like a real renaissance with, you know, seeing a lot of original art.
So do you feel like the kind of wave of more independently published comics and things that are less about like fantasy and heroes and stuff, is that like, do you feel like that's a newer movement? Like stuff that's like about like
no.
personal stories?
No. That goes back like a generation before me. You know, that's, you know, I guess the like, you know, boomer generation, the one that like really, you know, like our Crumb and the like whole underground comics movement, like the 60s and 70s, that's when like that kind of started. The like, you know, confessional, more like literary aspect of it was really birthed then. And then I guess like in the 80s, it really kind of, you know, with like Mouse, like Art Spiegelman's
Right,
Mouse.
that's true.
You know, people
Good
always
point.
say that was the, you know, kind of start of that. So yeah, I mean, you know, we're definitely, you know, at least 50, 60 years in.
Yeah.
Right. Would your generation be considered like an exennial almost?
I guess
kind of
so. I mean, I don't know. I was born in 78, so
Gotcha.
whatever that is.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never really identified with that. I've always thought that that's just kind of like a marketing thing that
Yeah,
people in
probably.
marketing come up with, you know. It's,
100%.
so yeah. So anyways, but actually, so like the other connection to the Turtles is that, like this book, Guilty, was published with a grant from like the other guy. So like the other Turtles guy, Peter Laird, instead of starting a museum and a publishing company, decided to, he put like $1 million in the bank and took the interest off that every year and gave it out to aspiring comic book artists.
That's awesome.
And in 2004 I got the one for Guilty.
That's so
So,
cool.
but like it'd be very specific. Like you couldn't like spend it on, you know, like Coke or, anything. Like,
Right,
you know,
yeah.
It's like you had to give them like a list of, you know, like how are you going to spend it? You know,
You couldn't commit grant fraud.
No, yeah. So like, you know, you had to get like a print, you know, like a quote from the printer and like, you know, shipping and like, you know, like distribution and all that stuff.
So how many copies was the first printing?
It was 2,000.
Wow.
And then it got translated into French, like a French publisher wanted to translate it, and then Dutch. But like, you know, I ended up getting good distribution for it.
Yeah.
So
How do the translations work if it's a language that you don't personally speak? Do you just hope for the best with that, or is it
yeah, you know, you do. I mean, you know, like when I met like a Parisian friend who like, you know, read it, and he said that they did a good job and they're very hip with the slang. So
That's good.
but yeah, otherwise, I have no idea.
I'm interested too. I know a lot of this is very like linear. Like you're using a lot of cross hatching and outlining in this. How does that translate when you're painting? Like, do you find it? Because I got a lot of feedback when I was in art school that I was painting like I was drawing, and apparently they didn't like that. Do you feel that you're doing that, or do you have a different kind of visual vocabulary when you're painting?
No, I mean, you know, I feel like I'm definitely drawing when I'm painting.
Yeah.
And you know, I think, you know, like there are a ton of, you know, artists throughout art history that have, you know, said that all, you know, painting is just drawing with color. I think Ang said that. And then like what's the like Michelangelo quote that he was talking to Pope Julius II, and Julius II, you know, commented on how great like the Sistine Chapel painting was. He was like, painting, that's just drawing, you know. But you know, I could have pissed on it; it would have been the same thing.
I wish I knew that in art school. I could have told my teachers fuck off. I guess I dropped out, so I did.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like there was just that whole generation of, you know, boomer artists that, you know, like are just kind of came of age in like the 20th century, like mid 20th century, and like, you know, painting or like figurative painting representational painting was just so out of fashion that it just stopped being, you know, taught. So like even like the idea of like good drawing like was, you know, like ceased to really be taught too. You know, there were only like a few outliers. Yeah. Or, you know, like really crazy like conservative schools, like the New York Academy, you know, but like not, you know, like it just wasn't considered serious art, you know, and just got to the point where, you know, like anything that was representational was just automatically illustration, you know, so, you know, and like I just always thought that was, you know, loony, you know. So
like Andrew Wyeth and Rockwell are two of the best artists that came out of that age group too.
You know? well, like Rockwell's a generation before. Oh,
I suppose,
But yeah, I mean, like I agree. I mean, I think Rockwell is like the greatest painter of the 20th century.
Wow.
I mean, at least like American painter.
Yeah.
Like maybe not like European, but you know, I mean, certainly it's like, you know, he, you know, like defines like, you know, the tenor of like a whole country.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, you know,
kind of defined Americana.
Yeah,
for many generations.
Yeah, and like when you really study him, I mean, you know, like he is like very like progressive. You know, like the end. I mean, he like left working for the Post because they wouldn't let him put black people in there.
Wow.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So that's why he left and went to Life magazine and did like the Ruby Bridges paintings and you know, all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, like as you know, speaking of someone who, you know, was like a drawer first and like a painter second, I guess, but you know, or he just like drew like with his paints. Yeah. I mean, have you been out to the museum in Stockbridge?
I haven't actually.
Wow. Yeah, you need to do that.
Yeah.
It's quite something.
Yeah, and as far as teaching drawing goes, it seems like a lot of the time too, I almost wonder if there's like not enough time in the semester that some professors just don't bother getting in like really in depth, and they kind of just meet the students with where they're at with whatever they're doing.
Yeah,
where that gets lost.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've more sympathy for teachers now that I have friends that do it. That, you know, like it is just a job. But, you know, I think ultimately, like, it is really up to you, you know, as a student, you know, aspiring artist to, you know, really just learn what you can and, you know, practice. You know, I mean, there's such, like, limitations to, you know, like teaching in general, you know, like you can only teach like a few tricks, you know, it really gets this up to you, the artist, because, you know, art is just a practice that like you have to keep up, you know?
Yeah. It's so important too to stay in touch with not just teachers, but classmates that have a similar philosophy to you, like kind of collecting that network forever. I guess not even just in school.
Oh yeah, completely.
Yeah, because once you leave, like as somebody who's gone in and out of school a lot, I think that learning process doesn't have to stop just because you're not in class, you know?
Right.
Like it can even restrict it, to your point, a little bit.
Yeah, well, like I feel like you should never stop. I mean, you know, I haven't stopped thinking about art like ever.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like all I think about. You know, and it's like you just need that like level of, you know, like obsessiveness.
Yeah.
You know, to like really, you know, do anything that's like significant. I mean, you like can't like half-ass art. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's either like just all-consuming and like total, or you're just not an artist.
Yeah.
I like really believe that, you know.
Yeah, and it shows. I mean, anybody who's even done a little bit of drawing in their life can see how much work some of these illustrations take. You know.
There's a lot of books here.
Yeah.
I mean, I can show you like the later stuff too. I mean,
Love to.
It's just kind of like evolved over the years. I mean, we're like skipping ahead now to present. These like penny pages. I'll grab some of Mother Nature's. You know, just incorporated more of the
Oh wow.
watercolor
Oh right.
stuff in there.
Very cool.
So,
This is kind of a silly question, but do
few
you ever
examples.
you ever just fuck up a page that you just loved so much and it's just devastating?
oh, yeah. I mean, like not as much these days. You know, because I kind of know what I'm doing, like going in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you know, I tear stuff up all the time.
Right.
I mean, you know, there are boxes up there of like unfinished works. You know,
Yeah.
there's probably like 10 unfinished books there from the past 2 decades.
Kind of a weird technical question, but
Yeah.
what would you say? Is there an average word count you think for these the kind of the scripts before illustration? Like when you write them out, like do they kind of get to like 30, 40,000 words or something? Or
No, I mean, I've never counted them, but like my rule is that I try to keep it to like 1 sentence per panel, or not per panel, per I guess per panel, like 1 or 2, just because like the flow of your eye will get bogged down if there are like too many words, and
Interesting.
there is such like a balance between like the words and the images, you know.
Yeah.
Like, and like, you know, the words I always put in first because like that's where your eye automatically goes when you're reading a comic. So like that really kind of dictates how your eye like reads like the illustrations too. So that goes from the words like to the pictures and then back. So I mean, like these aren't really good examples, but yeah, I mean, you know, I just try to keep like the lettering at like a minimal aspect, you know. So like, you know, here like I'll like break up these sentences, you know, with, you know, like a new balloon, just because it like affects like the flow of it, you know.
right, and it probably even is like a visual representation of the person's cadence, even, and just what they're
that
saying.
too. Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. And I mean, you know, I even think just keeping like the words like the same font size, I think is like just a bit too conservative. I mean, you know, like in like my newer work, I'm experimenting with like font size, you know, to like show if like something's quieter, and you know, or like big if like they're yelling, and then, you know, I don't know, just kind of like mixing up the like you know, flow like in a way that like the like words are like more drawn,
Right.
you know.
Is that
So-
why you write the script first, so you can incorporate the text into the composition?
Yeah, but then like it always changes.
Yeah.
Like once, you know, I'm actually down drawing, you know, because like, you know, like words like definitely change, like right up to the point where I'm, you know, like inking in the lettering,
Right.
and even then it'll change too, you know. So,
And are you working with like like just some like a big scanner?
yeah,
Or something?
Yeah, I
Okay,
mean, I have like
cool.
a 12 by 18 scanner.
Wow.
Cool.
So
Yeah, these technical
just
questions are really interesting to me. Like one thing I actually want to go back to, I referred to this font as looking like Comic Sans, which I hope it wasn't like a weird thing to say about your writing. But I think like,
it was insulting, but
sorry. I guess this is probably something only somebody who knows a lot about comic history would know. But is the popular Comic Sans font, is that just a font that's supposed to look like it's from a comic?
Yeah.
Or was this type of writing kind of naturally occurring in the greater sphere of comics? Like, is this...
Are you talking about like all caps?
Yeah, or I guess like kind of like maybe it's just me, but like I feel like a lot of graphic novels look like they're using the same font, even if it is the person's real writing.
You mean like nowadays? Yeah,
I suppose so. Maybe I don't know enough about like the classic stuff to really make a generalization like that.
Well, I mean, the generalization is that it's like traditionally all caps. I mean, like Comic Sans, like the actual shape of the font, I think is sort of a bastardized, like cheesy looking version.
Yeah.
I see.
Of that. I mean, my lettering is it's my handwriting, but in all caps. And,
Right.
Really carefully written.
Yeah, I can see that.
So, but yeah, I mean, originally, or like why that is because, comics were, like once they kind of became, like kids stuff, like in the 30s, I guess, when like the advent of like comics. I mean, because like in the early newspaper comics of the early 20th century, they really were like an all ages kind of thing. Like Prince Valiant or
Like Mutt and Jeff, is that from that time?
yeah. Like comics. Yeah, but so because they were in newspapers and they were read by adults, as well as kids. And then sometime like in the 30s and 40s, once the advent of like comic books and I guess superheroes, they kind of became more for children. And so like that was the idea, was that like we have to have the lettering big and like bold and all caps so kids can read it easily.
Yeah.
So
That's interesting.
yeah, but but it just looks good, so like
Yeah,
just
totally.
do it. I mean, I could see myself writing with like lowercase lettering too, but it's just I haven't developed that enough yet.
I feel like it's easier too when you're doing a lot of writing to write in print. I tend to do that. Like, I don't do comics at all like this, but I do smaller ones, and that's what I tend to default to because maybe it's just my handwriting, but lowercase is so much more, it can get so messy when you're doing a lot of it.
Yeah, that's true. It is hard to do.
Oh,
well.
and with this method you're talking about with the
lettering guide.
Yeah, that wouldn't really be conducive to the lowercase stuff with the tails going beneath the letters and shit. I mean, the lines.
Yeah.
It'd be kind of annoying.
That is always the problem. I mean, there are people who can do it well.
Yeah.
I can show you examples. But
do you collect comics too by other people, like or art relating to comics?
Yeah, I do. There's some on the walls.
Or are those by friends and such?
Yeah. Like a few friends and some stuff from comics history. But yeah, I mean, like not as much as I'd like to, because I'm not that wealthy yet.
You know what's funny?
At some point.
We interviewed somebody else in the same neighborhood a year or so ago. I don't know if you've been here that long in this residence.
I've been in Fort Point for 11 years.
Okay, so yeah, because we talked to somebody who we think told us about you.
Oh, yeah?
Where they were like telling, they had this amazing trove of vintage comics, and they were like, oh, and there's this other guy in this building who's like doing this great stuff, like you should talk, like really hyped you up, but I don't think we got the name that she was talking about. But now that we're doing this,
it's got to be me.
It has to be. So, because she's in this exact, not to be, but
she's in this building?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, and to refer to the building, I mean, you're in this amazing, work live space. This is like, did you build out all the shelving and the flat file stuff?
No, a friend of one of the neighbors, Eben Haynes, who's also like a really great painter. He won the Foster Prize of the ICA a couple years ago.
Oh, cool.
But one of his friends, TJ Kelly, who's like another painter, he's a woodworker, and we commissioned him to build these for us.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely. You've been in here for 11 years?
No, we've been here for 7 years, and then before we were on Melcher Street.
Nice.
Wow.
Which is around the corner.
So
then before that, we were in JP. And before that, I was in Alston.
Cool. So Boston Central.
Yeah.
I've been in Boston.
Is that over 20 years?
Like 25 years.
Wow.
I moved here in January '99.
Nice.
So going from living in Alston when you were writing that original book and all the way to now, like what do you kind of like make of like Like, I guess, how has that transition been, seeming like you were in, like, you know, like partying and with younger folks and probably in these, you know, DIY. Did you ever like go to house shows and stuff?
All the fucking time.
So, like, do you find, like, being in Boston this long, because a lot of people in this specific part of the city haven't lived here that long. A lot of them are
in Fort Point?
Yeah,
Oh,
or
like in the
Seaport. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's true.
It's a very big vibe change, I
is.
guess, over the past 2 decades for you then.
Yeah, no, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head, and that's like the source of my neurosis when I leave the house. I just can't believe that I'm fucking living in a place with all these ugly yuppies.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's a fucking beautiful place. Obviously it makes sense why you live here. So
Yeah, and it's also, I mean, it's great. I mean, like this co-op it's a co-op, and
Yeah.
you know, the idea. I mean, it was started in like '95. And back then, so like the artists that, I mean, like half the artists that started this building are still here.
Yeah.
And, you know, they just got a good deal with like the Boston Wharf Company. And there were like a lot of artists that were like living down here and that like, you know, were squatting in like some of these buildings. And they just, long story short, they just pooled their money together and, you know, like bought this place from the Wharf Company.
it's incredible.
But like the conceit, like, I mean, like we have bylaws, you know, that like you can't, the conceit is that like there's supposed to be like affordable housing for artists, and you know you like buy it cheap and you have to sell it for like not much more than what you paid for it.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
So like we, you know, I'll tell you off,
Of course, sure.
you know, like how much you pay, but it was like way, it's like 10 times below market rate.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
You know, but then you know like the fees are like a little higher because these boomers didn't save for the future, so like you know they had to borrow money from the bank for like repairs. But like in the last 5 years, you know we've kind of turned the ship around, and you know like we're building up reserves, so you know we're secure for the future. But it's,
Yeah.
but you know anyone over 50 will tell you back in the day that you know there were way more you know buildings like this.
Yeah.
But like you know they weren't like co-ops that were like secured, and you know like now there's just like 3 of them.
Yeah.
But you know, FPAC, the like Fort Point artist committee, Jesus,
Something like that.
they organize like the open studios, and you know they're kind of like a you know like throwback to like you know like what it was.
Yeah.
And you know like they like still are like very like active. You know there's like the gallery is down by the Barking Crab now. It actually used to be like in our basement. It was downstairs for
It's like
years.
a cafe
but they
or
just
something
moved.
too.
No. Well, the one that's by the Barking Crab.
Oh no, the one it's like down like the
downstairs,
lobby or
yeah.
something.
Yeah, I'm like there used to be a cafe. That space is empty, and you know actually we're actively looking for a new, you know, restaurant cafe to move in
That's
there.
cool.
So where's my train of thought? I'm all over the fucking place. So I mean it's good to like you know like we are kind of you know this like little bubble you know that of like the old like Fort Point, and you know it is nice. I mean you know like we're like trying to get you know like more younger people to move in. You know Alex and I are the second youngest. You know Evan and Delaney are the you know they just replaced us. They're in their
Oh,
30s,
yeah.
So
Is that your partner or roommate or?
no my wife Alex.
Gotcha.
So-
Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as an artist that seems to be so, you know, having these like great projects that aren't like local, like you're working with museums or, you know, collaborating with writers for the, you know, these graphic novels. How important do you feel like it is for you as an artist to be doing like kind of more local stuff, like with the local art community or like a gallery, like, you know, the, you know, like volunteer group show kind of deal? Like, do you feel like you kind of do that stuff too still, or?
Yeah, well, I mean, I did something with the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in 2019. They commissioned me to, okay, so they like had this idea for a show. There's this Botticelli painting there. That it's a triptych, and it tells a story of Lucretia, you know, the ancient Roman story about that, you know, of like how like Lucretia was raped and killed by these Roman soldiers, and then she well, no, she's like raped, but then she like kills herself
Oh wow.
for like, you know, as like revenge, and like it sparks like the like Roman Empire or something. So they wanted to do a show that was based around that, and like the idea was that the way that they always described the painting was that it was like a, you know, 15th century or 16th century graphic novel. So they thought, why not bring in a contemporary cartoonist and commission them to, you know, do like a 21st century version.
That's sick. That's cool.
So they commissioned me to do it.
How much time did they give you to do that?
Like 4 or 5 months.
Wow.
So
Was that like an adequate amount of time, or were you like by the seat of your pants? Or?
No, actually, wait, it was like a lot longer.
Oh, okay,
I think I
gotcha.
spent like 4 or 5 months on it.
I see.
So it was like a year, and then, yeah, I mean, you know, so like I had to make probably 10 drawings, and they were in this, you know, kind of pen and ink style. And so like they had the paintings, but then they made reproductions of my drawings and hung them up next to the Botticelli. So, you know, you could kind of like, you know, just, it's like a juxtaposition of that. I wish I could say smarter things about it. But then like I also did, like when you first walked in, it was like a 12-panel comic of how Gardner like bought the Botticelli. So like that was fun. That was,
Oh,
you know,
really?
just,
Wow.
I was able to, you know, kind of write something funny.
Yeah.
But then actually that leads me, so you know, like that's like a Boston thing, but there's like a funny story with that too that I love telling, because it's a good cautionary tale to you know, young artists out there. So, you know, I was paid like very well for it. I mean, it's like $15,000 or
Wow,
something.
that's awesome.
But so it was like around the time of the gala in 2019.
Oh, like a Gardner one or
yeah,
something?
Yeah, the like fundraising gala that they have every year. And they asked if I would want to donate or sell one of the pieces that was in the show, but you know, like the original drawings, because like I said, they were like printed out and then like put on the wall, so they were like blown up and like put on the wall. And I was like, sure, but like at the time, so like I had a gallery that I showed in, like I showed my drawings, you know, like the comic pages, and as well as my paintings. It was a very prominent gallery in Sowa, like 450 Harrison, like one of the biggest. I'm not going to give the name.
Gotcha.
What I'm going to tell you, because you know they were like one of the, if not the biggest, like the second or third, like biggest like contemporary gallery.
Yeah, high pressure.
But they were my dealer, but then like around this time it came out that this dealer wasn't paying his artists. And I wasn't affected as much as the other artists because my stuff didn't sell as well. But
Gotcha.
like, you know, I have friends that were owed, you know, like almost $40,000.
Oh my
Wow,
God.
that's crazy.
So everyone was kind of like distancing themselves. So like I didn't really have like an art rep at the time. And so anyways, so it's like before the gala, and they asked me would I want to sell these drawings that were in the show, you know, just outright flat fee, or do I want to take a cut of what it would go for? Because like they were auctioning it at the gala. And so like this is my excuse. I didn't have anyone to ask whether like what should I do. So I figured, because you know most comic book artists, you know, don't you know, consider their work to be that precious. You know, I thought that no one would really bid on it more than like what it would sell for in the gallery, which at the time was like $2,000. So I said, I'll just take $2,000. Didn't think to ask what the starting bid was.
Oh my God.
Or like any of that shit.
I see.
So then Alex and I get invited to the gala. We're there and they start like the silent auction.
Oh no.
And then I see the cards and it says that starting bid, original Karl Stevens, $25,000. So right off the bat, if I'd taken like the usual gallery artist split of half, you know, I was at least going to get $12,000. So then, the bidding starts, and then, you know, it ends, and then like the head of development comes running up to me. She's like, "Oh my God, Karl, I can't believe how much your drawings went for." I was like, "How much?" She said, $200,000.
Oh my God.
Holy
I
shit.
just plots. Like, so
Wow.
yeah.
So-
So that's a lesson, you know. Always take the
Percentage, not commission.
exactly.
Okay. Wow.
I can see
If you're
making
dealing with a major art museum, it's being totally funded by Boston Brahmins and as
Gotcha.
a tax write-off.
Yeah. Oh man. I can see making that decision though, because in your head you're probably like, well, if it doesn't sell for very much, I might like less, you know?
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
that sucks.
But it's dumb. I mean, you know, I should have thought there are actual wealthy people, you know, not just these, you know, like tech bros that are in the neighborhood.
Yeah, there's like ancestral wealth.
Yeah, old money.
Right.
Like
Totally.
billionaires.
Yeah.
You know? So anyway. But, you know, I'm happy for the gardener. And all that.
Right, yeah, I mean, it was probably fucking awesome for them. So,
So
wow.
That's funny.
So yeah, but I mean, you know, as far as like other local shows, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I don't really get asked to do stuff, and
So I was gonna say one weird thing that this would probably be like, you know, it'd be very like that I think it's interesting is you fit perfectly into this type. There's a group of curators that Theo works with that specifically are former or current museum employees and their art.
sorry,
the
that's
feeder, right? Yeah,
yeah, cat feeder.
yeah, we have one of
Gonna
those
say
too.
something funny. Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah,
Man,
but yeah, it's it'd be so interesting to see somebody.
it's me talking.
Right.
Hi, Pan.
That's awesome. Yeah. How old is Penny?
What? Penny is 11.
Oh wow.
Will be.
What were you saying?
Yeah.
Oh, I was just talking about Behind VA Shadows because it's like
Oh,
it's
yes.
like kind of a collective in these art shows, but it's specifically, you know, people who've worked in museums and reflecting on that.
Current or former frontline staff,
Yeah.
like security or visitor assistants.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, you know, I've like done that job, you know, and yeah, it's always littered with artists. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
I think it's the best job to get if you're, like a young artist because you're around art, and you know, if you're smart enough, you'll worm your way into a position where you can work on it on the job.
Yeah.
I think even what's his name, Jeff Koons, pop art guy, actually worked at a museum as well.
Did he?
Yeah.
Jeff
yeah,
Koons?
he had like a membership
I thought he
sales
was
job
a-
or something.
Oh, I thought he was a hedge fund guy before.
You know, maybe I don't know his
Maybe that was, like,
his actual
college.
biography. Yeah, right. It's
I know
like a
that-
summer job.
I know that, like Robert Ryman, the like white painting guy, like he was a guard at
Oh,
the
okay.
Met for a long time.
Like the colored field type deal.
Yeah. The other thing I didn't mention was like the New Yorker. I mean, kind of all over the place.
Oh wow.
Cool.
So just to show you.
Wow. So
of
were
that.
they commissioning illustrations from you, or were you kind of like staffed or something? or-
No. Like these are cartoons. So
I see.
So the story with them is that in 2018, I came up with this book.
Oh wow.
So
Oh, this is about your time
yeah,
working as a security.
Yeah, and like meeting Alex. It's really about meeting Alex and experimenting.
Oh, wow.
So like leading up to this, so I actually worked at the Gardener too.
Mm-hmm.
So, so I was living in New York like around 2010, 2011, and I was in a bad relationship. I was a bad boyfriend. I left. I met Alex and moved back. But you know, like I had a real problem with alcohol and drugs.
Gotcha.
And so I like moved back and got sober. And
Congrats. That's awesome.
well, thanks. But like my gig with like the Boston Phoenix was ending too. Like that ended in like 2012, and I got fired for making fun of Bud Light, which is kind of funny. So I mean, well, I'll tell you that story. So like that story, yeah, like one of the panels I compared Bud Light to horse piss, and then
Gotcha.
I
They
was,
didn't like that.
yeah, because apparently they were trying to get Budweiser as an advertiser, but it would have helped if they told me that beforehand.
Right.
So
Yeah.
anyway, so they let me go, and I was, you know, that was my only source of income, which was really sad at that point, or like steady income.
Yeah. Oh, that sucks. It's like
So-
instant death.
Yeah. So, well, but I was, you know, because I was so out of it from the substances, I like made a big stink about it. And then, like the Globe, like on Facebook at the time, and like, somebody from the Globe, the Boston Globe, contacted me about it because like every year the Phoenix would, run these, issues that, you know, the Phoenix was weekly. So like
Yeah.
every end of the year they would have like the biggest censored stories of, you know, the previous year.
Yeah.
And, you know, the Globe just pounced on that. Oh, they're censoring their longtime cartoonist.
Mm.
So, so they actually like wrote like an article. They had to like, you know, contact like my former editor. Like, is this why he was fired and all this? And, but, you know, it was dumb for me because I ended up losing all of the other illustration like editorial illustration stuff that I was supposed to do for the Phoenix.
Was it kind of like oh, gotcha. The bridge was totally burned.
Yeah,
right.
it was burned to a crisp and fell into the moat.
Right.
And so anyway, so it was rock bottom. So quit drinking. Started working at the Gardner as a guard again. Wormed my way to the desk and then that's what the winter basically is. And then I was experimenting with different styles, and it was kind of like just a reevaluation of my work. It's like like what am I doing with these comics and drawings and paintings?
Yeah, I really love that it. Kind of has this mixed media feeling to it, where it just like
I mean that's a good example of like me taking like what I learned about painting and just incorporating it as a storytelling device.
I love this page too with the kind of, it almost reminds me of what's that guy's name, Piet Mondrian or something.
Right. Right, the primary colors. So anyway, so this book, was the small publisher, but it got like national distribution, and randomly it was in a bookstore in Brooklyn, and the cartoon editor from the New Yorker, Emma Allen, wandered in, saw it, and reached out to me and said, would you like to start submitting to the New Yorker? And I was completely flabbergasted because I hadn't thought about gag cartoons in that way, because just one panel like New Yorker gags, it's such a specific thing, and I was really just wanted to do
that's good.
Long story comics, but it's such an opportunity that I just forced myself to like learn. And she was really nice in the beginning and like would give me tips. And then I sold one, and then I just was submitting every week. And the way that it works with them is that there aren't any staff cartoonists. You and like Ross Chast and everyone else just like submits like 5 to 10 ideas every week, and they may or may not choose one.
Yeah.
So is it like a vetted?
So like I was selling one.
Illustrators.
Yeah, I mean, like they say there's probably like 70 of them that are like every week submit, and then and then there's this like God knows how many, like probably thousands of just like unsolicited people that like come in. So what Emma does is that she like combs through them, probably first like those 70, and then presents them to like the main editor, David Remnick, and then he makes a decision.
It's like Mad Men.
Yeah. So it's like this crazy like process, but it's good. I mean, like it really forces you to but like at my best, I've only sold like 21 gag cartoons, but like at my most frequent, it was probably one every like 2 months.
Yeah.
So if you break that down, that's it's like 1 out of 100.
I'm curious to know about, I've seen this kind of appear in a lot of your illustrations, this like beautiful deep black that comes through in a lot of them.
Oh, thanks.
Could you tell us about, like, is that paint, is that ink, or like how are
it's
you?
Ink. It's all ink.
That's like just standard India ink?
Yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful.
So, like I use like a crow quill to like do like the fine lines, and then like a brush for the big areas of black.
It almost looks screen printed.
Oh, thanks.
Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, well, like because like the New Yorker, so like you have to scan these at like 1200 DPI. So like you'll get every detail. So if like I really want something black, I really gotta like layer it. So
you're doing like multiple, like you fill it in black,
and then I fill it in again.
Wow.
Until it's like black.
Because I mean,
so,
is this an original drawing, or is this a print of it?
Oh, that's the original.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just showing you compared to what it looks like in print.
Yeah.
I see. Because what's really impressive about these is that, there is no, there's no like, I mean, I'm sure if you look close enough, you could see the pen marks, I guess. But as far as the rest, right. Yeah.
Maybe you need glasses.
I do actually. But it is pretty cool, especially with the Godfather poster.
Oh, that's nothing.
Gotcha.
I'll show you a pen drawing I'm working on now. I've been pitching covers.
Oh, yeah? Oh, covers for the magazine itself.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's impressive.
So, but I'm doing them in these pens. So it's
cool.
Wow.
So that's just very detailed.
Is this what city is this specifically?
Oh, it's New York, of course.
Okay, I see. Right. Where else?
What size pen do you use for lines like that? It's so small.
I use one pen for it all. I'll show you.
Really? The same width? That's crazy.
And there are those Doc Martens that everybody wears.
I have those.
Yep.
Yeah,
Same model phone I have.
I use like a Hum 102 flexible nib.
Oh my god!
cool.
So these are not. This isn't pen and this is like
Yeah.
ink shit.
I mean, if like you want to walk over
Oh,
here,
please, yeah.
I'll show you.
Yeah, what a wonderful studio, and this is a fucking wonderful piece there.
Oh, thanks. Yeah,
Is that-
that's
what-
a new painting. That's a painting of Alex that's gonna go on
Wow.
the show in P-Town.
Cool.
Oh, okay, excellent.
So, yeah, you know, it is very.
So that's just a jar of standard speedball with this
Yeah, it's actually Winsor Newton ink,
Winsor Newton. Okay.
but I do use a speedball, and yeah, it's, you know, you can get these really
Oh,
like
wow.
thick lines, but then like really hair thin lines. So it's almost like, you know, weaving. So
Yeah.
this is what I do all day. But you know, because this will, you know, if they decide to buy it, they do it exact size, so like none of this detail will be lost in the reproduction. But it does, you know, go back to like studying Andrew Wyeth and like the, you know, early Flemish painters in the Renaissance, Durer, Goltzius.
Could we take a photo of you doing that for our cover?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, fuck it. Just interrupt it. Yeah, that's beautiful, man.
Oh, thanks.
So I noticed you're drawing without your glasses.
Yeah, I am just farsighted.
Oh, okay, so it's actually-
like nearsighted. I'm sorry.
Right, so
So-
it's... Huh.
Yeah, so it's like blurry if it's up close. Although
Yeah.
I'm getting to that age where it is starting to blur a little bit.
I see.
So I'll probably need bifocals.
Right.
I was gonna say, with those fine lines, do you ever get migraines?
No, I don't. I mean, I've just been doing it for so long.
Yeah.
I used to get back pain in my early 30s, but then another benefit of Alex is that she got me to start lifting weights and working out. So that like went away.
Very cool. So we'll let you out of here. Yeah, and as far as the show goes in P-Town, I mean,
Yeah, that's one of the paintings.
is this an oil painting?
That's an
or-
oil painting. Yeah.
Okay, wow. I can see the Flemish masters coming
Yeah.
through there, like you said.
That's another one. It's
That's
gonna be in there.
gorgeous.
You paint a lot on these
Yeah, on
the
like
panels.
Panel, yeah.
Is that because of like that smoothness that can come through with them, or?
That's exactly right.
Gotcha.
I used to paint on canvas, but now it's mostly panel. I can show you some more.
Wow. Holy shit! And what is the P-Town gallery you're working with?
Well, they were called Room 68, but
Okay.
they're now called Bad Habit, and that just changed in the last month.
Oh, that's exciting.
So, yeah, it's a whole long story.
I wonder if I've been there before because I don't know many of the names of the galleries, but every summer or so I'll go, you know, just walk the whole. I forget the name of that.
Commercial Street.
Commercial Street,
Yeah.
exactly. So and pop in and see all the wonderful shows.
Yeah, maybe. It's kind of. I mean, it's in the East End.
Gotcha. So you're covering these with these kind of wax paper. Is that just for storage purposes, or?
Yeah, because I'm like storing them on top of each other.
Right.
So they don't stick.
I mean, like they are pretty dry, but it's just, you know, sometimes the.
And are you
the moisture
working-
Fucks with it.
Right.
So like the idea for the show is that I wanted to do these kind of this very basic, like almost cliche ideas, and just see if I can make them interesting. You know,
Yeah.
like cows, you know, a tree, like a moonscape, you know. And
Yeah, this
then-
one's very dreamy.
I mean, it is definitely feels like the artist's vision, you know, with your wife appearing here in these landscapes. It almost feels like the man behind the camera kind of deal.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I kind of. I saw that Alex Katz show. that
Oh,
was
yeah,
at the,
yeah.
At the Guggenheim, and that kind of like, you know, made me like just like think about my own work because I do paint Alex a lot. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of, you know, what I'll probably just keep doing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
there's
you
a
know,
lot of
just-
love in these.
You know, like as she, you know, like well as we both, you know, like we've been together 12 years, so
Yeah.
it's you know, there's like a whole body of work from those 12 years of me drawing her, so it's kind of interesting to like think about that, you know, as like a, you know, this abstract sort of narrative, like in the way that Katz does it too.
Yeah.
And you know, I've been thinking about the way that his like figurative paintings that are, you know, like conversations with his friends and stuff. And there's like a similarity to, you know, the comics work that I do, and you know, I kind of want to evolve into that and do, you know, figurative work that is more like, you know, 17th century Dutch genre like that, where it's just, you know, people like talking and
Yeah.
or like Rockwell, that like, you know, it has like this, you know, like narrative quality to it, you know, like, you know, narrative, like figurative painting as fine art again, you know, because I feel like that, you know, has just been so shunned for like really like not like a good reason, you know, for like generations now. So it's like, you know, I feel like, you know, now's the time more than ever. It's like, you know, like we need to tell like, you know, beautiful, simple stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even in this building alone, I mean, you're probably one figurative artist you could count on one hand in this whole fucking neighborhood.
Yeah. I know. It is lonely, but
On a personal level too, it must be really rewarding to have like this history from your career of these personal moments that you're capturing. Like that must be neat, even with just the paintings of Alex, like seeing those 12 years documented and like how she's changed and how your vision has changed. That's a cool thing.
Yeah. It does kind of lend itself to like what's going on like in real life. I mean, this is you know, like we went to Japan recently, and this is from them.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, it's just like one of the bathhouses or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay, cool. I've never been out there. It's looks awesome.
Yeah, it's incredible. We were there for 2 weeks.
Oh, that's fun.
Just this past March.
Yeah, speaking of bathhouses, we're going to Iceland
Oh, sweet.
in a week or two.
Nice.
So
We
maybe
went
we'll
there.
get a little bit of
Oh,
that
really?
vibe.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Was it fun?
It was incredible.
Awesome.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, we went for 10 days.
Okay.
Something like that. I
Yeah.
mean, we were like Reykjavik, but we did like the Golden Circle.
Oh,
thing,
wow.
you know.
That's what we're gonna do too.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
Rent a car.
Yep.
See
exactly.
the waterfall and
That's exactly our plan.
yeah. Actually, when we were there, I forgot the name of the town, but this is where this is from.
Oh, no
And-
way.
Okay. So this is this show. I don't even know if I should show you this. So, okay. So like the past like 5 or 6 years, I've been looking at a lot of, you know, like fantasy art.
Yeah.
I guess
Gotcha.
you could call it. So it's, you know, made me want to, I mean, like this is kind of like a small step in that direction.
Gotcha.
So this, to describe it, it's like a nude sitting on a rock, brushing her hair, but in the background there's a giant, you know, it's like this lake with some mountains, and then there's like a moon.
Yeah.
You know, this giant moon. So like this would not happen in real life. You know, this is very
Yeah,
much
good
like
point.
a, you know, construct. It is not realism. You know?
Yeah.
So, you know, so anyways, so like I saw this image when I was, so there was this small museum that was outside of Reykjavik near I forget the town, but it was, you know, about like the history of this town. And on the wall was this taxidermied ram with like these crazy horns.
Yeah.
And I thought that would look really cool in a painting, you know, but like what kind of painting?
Yeah.
So I was like, well, you know, I could do this like satanic like goat head painting with it. And
Hell yeah.
So I started doing it.
Oh yeah, Baphomet.
And I was gonna do it for
That's so sick.
I was gonna do it for the P-Town show, but then it just kind of didn't work as
Yeah.
well. But like his body's gonna be gray,
Okay.
and then there's gonna be flames coming up like through his hands, and then go like behind him, and then like fill, you know, this like kind of swirl thing, and then
Yeah.
you know, like the water is he's just gonna be like sitting on the water, and then I,
Yeah.
don't know, I might add something else. I was thinking maybe like a line of trees or something, but
Cool.
we'll see. But you know, it's like the nighttime, like that'll be like a blood moon,
Right.
and it's gonna be like the sun, and it'd be way super detailed. It's gonna be like covered in hair and like, you know, gray,
Yeah.
like gray skin. So it's very early days.
It's like has the obvious Baphomet reference, but it also feels similar to the High Priestess tarot card
Oh,
in a
yeah.
strange way.
Totally,
I
yeah.
can feel that coming from it.
Awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's sick because
Yeah, unconscious.
the high priestess has the two pillars next to each other. One is white and the other's black.
Oh, no kidding.
To symbolize, I don't know, kind of whatever.
I mean,
duality kind of.
yeah.
So it kind
Well, that's what I
of
was thinking.
echoes
like,
that composition a little bit.
like
I love
duality.
it.
And then I did this, which my friend says is very porny, and I totally agree. But it was like a Venus painting.
Yeah.
Right.
It was just trying to like kind of riff off that too. But, like,
Yeah,
Right.
the blood moon.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's cool.
And P-Town would be a wonderful place to look at the full moon or blood moon should it happen during your show.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, like this is from P-Town.
Right, gotcha.
I go there for our anniversary every year too.
Oh, really?
that's
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Summertime, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Or-
August,
okay, fuck
August
yeah.
8th, yeah.
Hell yeah.
So we'll see next show.
And
Yeah.
did you paint this fucking giant sheep here as well?
I did not.
Oh, it's a sick painting.
That is that painting teacher I was telling you about, Anthony
Oh.
Apesos.
Oh, cool.
So
Wow.
He gifted that to me.
Oh, cool. You're fucking. See, I have paintings that have been given to me by friends and stuff, and the only thing they need is a wall. They're all just in. I have barn storage essentially. That's just hundreds and hundreds of paintings.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's awesome, though.
I mean, Tony's kind of like that too. I mean, he stopped showing like in 2000 or something.
Wow.
But like he still paints every day, and like they have like this big house in Jamaica Plain, and
Oh, cool.
he's been like like filling it with paintings since
Yeah.
then. I mean, he'll
bet.
like show like occasionally, but like he's always quick to give you a painting.
That's the life of a Boston professor, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah.
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, he's like retired now, so he's
Yeah.
gonna paint even more.
Yeah.
So,
That's the dream.
yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
But,
So how do you feel being a cat person in a city of dog people?
I feel defiant. Dogged.
Yeah.
Pardon the pun.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, like the cats were kind of like thrust upon us, but like in a good way. you
Yeah.
know?
Right.
I mean,
The cat distribution system.
Right.
yeah.
as they say.
I mean, like Penny is interesting because like that was like another thing that kind of fell into my lap. So in like 2016, while I was working at the Gardener and kind of figuring shit out with what became the winner, a friend of mine was tasked with finding a new cartoonist for the Village Voice. Do you guys know what the Village Voice was?
I haven't read. I think is that like an older local newspaper?
Yeah,
Or-
in New York.
Oh, okay,
So
gotcha.
it's,
All right.
It's a legendary New York weekly. It's actually the first alt weekly
wow.
paper, and it had like a circulation of like 1 million copies or something.
Wow.
Like in its heyday. And anyways, so like around 20, so like they had like a longtime cartoonist, for like decades named Jules Pfeiffer. Who's very important in the history of comics, and he worked with them for a long time. But then he asked for a raise, and then they got rid of him, and they were always trying to like replace him with other people. And anyways, in 2016, my friend Tom was tasked with he was like a prominent comics critic, like writer, and they asked him to find like a new cartoonist. So they had, long story short, he had me audition, and a couple other people. And so like I went down there and met with the editor, and they were like, oh, I thought like they wanted, they made it seem like they wanted something that was similar to what I did for the Phoenix, like something about young people. They were like, hey, there's this thing going on in Brooklyn right now, all these hipsters. I was like, oh, okay, it's like 2016, right?
Yeah, a little late even.
Yeah. So I did something that was kind of similar to that, to like the Phoenix stuff, and they were like, like we want something that like women want. And I was like, so I went to, it's like, what a thing to say, right? So I asked Alex, what do women want? She's like, just do something about the cat. So like, that's how Penny
So
started.
true.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
So I just, I just made this strip with Penny's thoughts about being trapped in our apartment, and it just kind of went off from there. And, but like it paid really well, it was, and I had like the whole, I wish I had I definitely have a copy somewhere, but I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
But anyways, it was like this broadsheet, like it was printed, it's like 11 by 14, like newspaper. But I had the whole like back page, so it's like a full page of like a Penny strip, and they were paying me like $1,000.
Wow.
And I
That's
did,
fucking awesome.
And I did like 21 of them, and so it was just like 6 months, and it was great. But then, then after it ended, I just put it away and I forgot about it. But then there's this show in Boston, comics show called Mice in
Yeah.
Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Mice, Independent Comics Expo. I was tabling there, selling my books, and I was next to my friend Marika Makula, who was a local cartoonist, and I'd made like a little zine of the Penny comics that were in The Voice, and she's like, these are really great. Like you should, like get an agent, like try to get a book deal. And like it like hadn't occurred to me. I was like such an idiot. It's like, of course, fucking cat book.
Right.
So then, so I did. Like I contacted my friend Tim, who had a very prominent like literary agent, and then I sent her some samples, and she decided to take me on. And then within like a month, we got a deal with Chronicle Books to do the Penny book.
Wow.
So I basically just did like 120 more Penny strips.
So in terms of finding an agent, was that just like an instance of you knew a guy?
Yeah.
kind of deal?
Yeah,
Okay, hell
well, yeah, like I said, like my friend Tim, who's, he's like a writer, he's like essayist, but like he had a couple books published of his essays. Like he writes for like the Times and like the Medium, all kinds of places.
Gotcha.
So, but like I had met his agent before, like like a while ago, and I knew that she was good, so I just took a chance. And she, she doesn't really represent, like she only represents a handful of cartoonists. Like, it's mostly like fiction writers or
Gotcha.
Essayists.
So she definitely made some room for you. That's really cool that she
Yeah, Meg's the best. I mean, like she knows everyone. She's just really, really fucking good.
Yeah.
And when we were doing Mother Nature, she really like went to bat for me and got me a good deal.
Yeah.
Because like the Mother Nature story is actually also kind of crazy. Because like how I met Jamie Lee Curtis. So like she collects these like New Yorker cartoons.
Jamie Lee Curtis?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And in fact, she gives them as anniversary gifts. So like her,
Wow,
to her
okay.
husband, Christopher Guest.
That's cool.
Yeah. And so in 2019, so like every year they like pick one, and in 2019 they picked one of mine.
Oh my God.
And so she like found me on Twitter and asked to buy it, and so I sold it to her, and it turned out that we just kind of hit it off and became friendly. So like we would just send each other stuff, we would like text each other things.
Yeah.
And then in 2020 she just sent me the script that she had written with this guy Russell Goldman that it was a film script that she had sold to Blumhouse. Do you know Blumhouse?
Not familiar, no.
They're like a horror studio. They did. They're famous for Paranormal Activity. Get
okay,
Out.
gotcha.
They did Get Out.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
It's a
Black
great one.
Klansman. They're like a independent studio.
Yeah.
So Jamie sold Mother Nature, like she, to them, like the script to become a film, and she just wanted me to read it. So I read it, and I was like, Jamie, this would make a fucking great graphic novel. And she's like, that's a fucking great idea. But then it was like 9 months of, deciding who owns what, and all the rest. So,
Yeah.
But they left me completely alone, and I was able to just basically adapt this movie script into comics how I saw fit.
Cool.
And it took me like 2 years to do. It was just like, just breaking down this 100-page script into comics, and then realizing that my breakdowns, weren't cutting it. So I just had to like I was basically just like, a page at a time as I was going through it. Like by the end, it really was like getting out of control. But just like the amount of like references, it takes place in New Mexico, so it's completely alien to me.
Right.
We went out there, Alex and I, to like take a bunch of photos, and yeah, it was like thousands upon thousands of hours of work and research. So
That's awesome.
but I was given enough in advance that I was able to like leave the Gardner, and now I've just been doing it full time since then. Because
You said that was 2021 or something?
Yeah,
or?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
So-
Wow, fuck yeah, congratulations.
Thanks.
So this is like kind of a newer,
Yeah.
like full-time path for you then.
Yeah, totally. Like the last couple of years have been like, kind of crazy. Because also in 2021, so Penny was supposed to be like a 2-book deal with Chronicle. But like the initial sales, it came out in like April 21, and then the initial sales were below what they were expecting. So then, that fall, like I'd gotten tickets to go see David Sedaris. Do you know David Sedaris?
Yeah, author.
Yeah. So-
Occasional radio host, podcast guest.
Yes, legend.
Absolutely.
So, Alex is a huge fan,
Oh, cool.
and so
Oh yeah, that's so fucking cool.
so like we went to go see him, and we're standing in line, and because I can't help myself, and I was telling myself I was just gonna shut the fuck up and just let Alex meet David Sedaris. I'm not gonna like network him. So we get there. She tells the story better than me, and he's like distracted, and then there's this awkward silence, and I just blurt out, "Oh, hey, I'm in the New Yorker too." He's like, "Really?" And then I like pull up my phone and I like show him. He's like, "Oh yeah, I remember that one." And then he's like, "I'm gonna write your name down." So he writes my name down, and then I just completely bogart the conversation. And then like we walk away, and then like Alex is just crestfallen, and I can tell she's upset, but she's not showing it. And like, I'm like, I'm gonna make this up to you. I don't know how. She's like, yeah. So the next day, Sedaris slides into my DMs on Instagram.
No way.
And he's like, I didn't realize you were the guy that did Penny. I bought that at this store in P-Town last year, and I really loved it. And I was like, oh, thanks. And then I remembered that there's like a panel in here of Alex reading one of his books.
No way.
And I'm like, how would you like this original page? Like, I still have it. And he's like, that would be amazing. So I like sent him the page, and then he wrote me this, thank you postcard, in the back, he wrote, Penny is a major literary figure right up there with Madame Bovary. That's like the end of the postcard. And then, some months go by, and then he like writes me again, and he says, he like emails me, and he says, every year I take another author's book out on tour, and for the fall 22 tour, I would like to bring Penny. I'm doing 47 dates, they're all venues, like 2,000, 3,000 seat venues.
Wow.
And, I'm just, I get up there and I talk about your book. And then, do like a signing after. And I'm doing 47 dates. So typically I can sell between 30 and 50 copies of like the other author's book. So, I tell Chronicle, like my editor is, thrilled, of course. And, I'm like, so do you guys have enough copies? And they're like, yeah. So they had like rejected the sequel because of poor sales. So like, I'm like, okay, like now this is the time to boost sales. So the first venue is in Montreal, and they sell, the bookstore, that's dealing with the event sold like 100 copies of Penny right out the gate. And then it just started going up and up. And the book like sells out like immediately. And it turns out they didn't have enough copies in stock. So in the middle of the tour, they had to like do an emergency reprint.
Wow.
But they hemmed and hawed, and they didn't do it in time.
Oh.
So like, all the bookstores that were on the tour, just bought everything, from like thrift books, every online place, just, completely sold out. And I was scheduled to meet David in like the last two stops, were in Seattle and Portland, Oregon. So we like fly out there. The like Seattle's store had 180 copies of Penny, and it sold out within the first hour.
Wow.
And David's signings go for like 8 hours. So you do the math, we could have sold,
right,
maybe
holy
1,000
shit.
copies.
Right.
Yeah.
And so anyways, after the tour, we like got breakfast. He's like, like your publisher sucks, you should come to Little Brown. So but then there's like another part of this. So like we went to Little Brown, but then there was a whole thing with the editor there. They just did kids books, so like the Penny sequel, they didn't appeal to them. But then we pitched it again to Chronicle, and Chronicle was like, it was like too weird for them.
Oh.
And they also said like poor sales. They like had the balls to say that it was poor sales. So then anyways, but like, David, turned out to, be really cool and like a friend. And then he decided to like take it out on tour again this past fall. So like, that boosted the sales again too.
That's awesome.
But like they did print up enough copies this time. So anyways,
That's good.
So like my agent's pitching the sequel now. And I've like rewritten it, so it's not as weird.
What was too weird about it?
Well, it was, so it's like this whole, I still might do it, but, there's a Pope cat, and it takes place like in this world where like there's like, the like place where like cats come from.
Yeah.
I'll like show you some of the pages.
Kind of got
awesome.
a psychedelic vibe to it.
Yeah, it's like, I think I went to space too soon. So,
They weren't ready.
yeah, so like the new ones.
Jumped the cat.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's awesome.
Completely jumped the cat. And so like the conceit of the sequel is that it's about the other cat, because we have two cats, Pepper.
Right.
So like, it's like the first page is like Penny realizes that there's been another cat living with her the whole time, and it's her sister Pepper, which isn't find out it's her sister to the end, because it's like a trip to visit her mother.
Oh, wow.
Or their mother in Brooklyn. So it's like a homeward bound kind of thing.
Do they get along really well in real life?
Yeah, they're like they don't hate each other.
Gotcha.
Are they
Right.
really sisters?
They are.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like that's true. We like found them or like our friends Bill and Chris, who live in Greenpoint, there were like all these like stray cats that they feed like in their back lot, and one of them had kittens, and then they just saved all the kittens, and Penny was in that litter, and you know, and they gave them away to friends. So we got Penny and Pepper.
Oh.
That is so cool.
So yeah, so they're like a bit feral, you know, and they definitely like we don't clip their nails, and you know, they definitely like, you know, beat up on each other a lot.
For sure.
Self-possessed.
Yeah.
What do they say? What are the tortoiseshell cats? My mom has one, and they are wild. So
She's a little bit of a terror.
the vet
She's
told
the
me that
sweetest
they're
cat, though.
yeah. So
She's
anyway,
really sweet to
Yeah.
people, and she's really small, but she beats up them. I have a big orange cat who he's so cute and dopey, but she scares the shit out of him like all the time.
Yeah. Tortitude.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I know. Yeah, I mean, Penny's been really like good for my career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
can't believe we met a famous cat today.
I know.
So
yeah, it is fun. I mean, like I go through periods where it, you know, I mean, after I finished the Penny book, I was like, I can't draw another cat, you know, which is why I was very grateful for Mother Nature that, you know, I was able to just do something completely different.
Yeah.
So, but like now that it's, you know, after like the last like Sedaris tour, you know, I have like a lot more like, you know, like it's basically like my entire fan base is like
That's cool.
fucking cat people. So
right,
I
gotcha.
should at least do one. I mean, you know, I love them and I'm completely grateful for them.
Right.
And you know, I do want to draw cats again. So
I think
So,
I
at
found
least
your
one
account
more.
because of a Penny comic on my Explore page. Like
Oh, really?
last week. Yeah.
yeah, it was crazy. I mean, like one of them, like one of the strips like went viral, got like 60,000 likes or something, and and like it sucked into the algorithm, and then you know I got like I don't know 15,000 more fans.
Yeah.
Wow.
Or like you know followers in the last 6 months or something.
That's
cool.
fucking awesome.
So
What I think's interesting too about your story is that there seems to be like I feel like a lot of artists and younger professionals feel like they need to like go viral or build up their social media before anything good happens to them. So it's kind of cool to like, it seems like, you know, you didn't like, it seems like you did it without it or something. Like you didn't rely on trying to just make content and build up an online following.
I hate
like,
that word.
Oh, following?
Content.
Oh, content. Gotcha. Right.
It's art.
Right. No, I mean, and I
It's such,
really
like,
admire
corporate,
that.
corporate
about-
speak.
Yeah.
I mean, like content and like creatives, like really like boil my blood because like it just it's so reductive to like you know what I and all artists do. It's like you know we are art. Like we are artists. Like we built fucking civilization. Without like you know artists, like we like wouldn't have anything in this room. You know, like you know artists like you know are like pure imagination. Without imagination, humanity is nothing.
Yeah.
So to like be reductive and call us fucking content creators,
Right, yeah.
is just like so ugly.
Yeah.
Do
Like
you-
marketing brain.
Yeah.
Do you feel like people should, like artists should be trying to rely less on that shit and just be in the real world? And like,
I think everyone should
yeah.
be more in the real world. But yeah, I mean, you know, but I say that, you know, very, you know, flippantly because, you know,
Gotcha.
but you know, I'm on there as much as anyone else.
Sure.
So, but you know, it's just we're in a fallen world. You know, it's gonna deal with it the best you can.
Yeah.
And you know, like try not to like believe everything that's on there. I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's probably like part of the impulse too to like, you know, continue to just draw and paint, you know, because it's just like away from the screens, you know,
Yeah.
it just has nothing to do with like anything that's like digital and like fake, you know, it is like a real fucking thing that you can hold with your hands.
Yeah.
And a question about
And
the
you can do way more like subtle things with it, you know, like this iPad is so like limiting and it all looks
Right.
the same. It's ugly.
Yeah, it does seem like every
Digital art is ugly.
yeah, a lot of it's like they're using all
Quote.
the exact same brush set, you know. So
Yeah. Yeah.
you know what your comics do kind of, if I could like bring up a different graphic novelist, is like, are you familiar with Alison Bechdel and Fun Home and
course.
those books? Those are like, those maybe were two of the first graphic novels that I had read, and they like really fucking, I had no idea what a graphic novel could be until reading those. So before that, I've read my share of comics, but those I was like, holy fuck, this is like
Yeah, she's a good writer.
absolutely sick. So
She's a good writer. I mean, she's like a limited illustrator, but she's an incredible writer.
gotcha. And with publishing too, like with Penny being widely distributed, is the one from 2004, is that also like in stores and shit too, or is that one?
It's like out of print, but yeah, it was. I mean, it was in comic book stores. It didn't get book distribution, but it got comic book store distribution. But like national. There's like one distributor, or at the time. And called Diamond Distribution, and they accepted it and they distributed it. I mean, I probably sold like 1,000 through them, and that the other 1,000 was just going to shows over the years or.
Right.
Yeah.
So is the comic book distribution, that's like a different world?
Well, just to like comic
professionally?
book, yeah, like specialty shops. I mean, like I guess since like the turn of the century, comics have, or like comics publishers have made huge, obvious, inroads where like, big publishers like Chronicle or, like Random House, who did Mother Nature, like, have like just like traditional like book distribution where you can buy them in bookstores or like, online. But like that didn't exist like pre 2000 really. I mean,
Right.
it was very rare, I mean, it would be like Mouse and like, maybe Watchmen or something, but, so like now like the distribution is mostly like bookstore distribution and not just like comic book like specialty shops, so because like that's what it was for decades, I mean that started in like the 70s,
right.
like it's called the direct market, and it was kind of born out of the idea of like not graphic novels but like 24-page staple stitched comic books,
Right.
Being valuable as back issues. So the idea of this distribution system was that stores, so like before that, like newsstand comics, they were returnable. So if like a newsstand didn't sell their comic books, like they would take the unsold ones, rip off the cover and send it back to the publisher. The publisher would take it as a loss. So the idea with the direct market, just distributing to comic book stores, was that they were non-returnable. And the catch was that, like these things are going to be worth money. So in the long term, the stores would be able to sell them as back issues. There was like a, collectible aspect to it. So that was like the norm for like a long time. So, but the benefit of that, and like the Ninja Turtles really, like they're like the big, like, like breakout, like, like creative force from that, is that like, it was, if you were like a small publisher doing like a black and white comic, you were kind of on even playing field with like Marvel and DC, who were like the dominant publishers back then.
Yeah.
So like for example, like the Ninja Turtles, like it became this breakout hit, but like they just did this modest like small print run. It was like a black and white comic and came out in like the early 80s, and it just caught on. And so, but there were, like 4 or 5 different distributors. So like, they would just get all these orders in from these different distributors, and, those numbers were like, just copies sold. So, if they got, if they sold, if like the distributors asked for like 5,000 copies, like all those copies were sold. So like they would get a check back. So, it just like enabled them to like, kind of build capital and like keep going, whereas like before they would, you would have to, factor in like maybe like half, at best of your stock getting returned to you, and then like you would lose that money.
That's crazy. That's a crazy business model.
It's a super crazy business model. But, of course it went belly up.
Yeah.
And there were like a lot of reasons for that. I mean, we could talk all day about that, but, really it was like, Marvel going bankrupt in like the late 90s. It's like pre like Hollywood, they
Pre-MCU.
Yeah, because I mean, because there was a period like in the early 90s where like all their big talent left and formed Image Comics, as like a rival, and they became like the third biggest, comic book publisher. And, there was like the other, so like Diamond was always like the biggest distributor, but then there was Capital City too, who was like the, more independent one. And, there was a thing in I think like 94 or 5 where Marvel just aligned itself with Capital City, and that like screwed over. It just kind of like created this like domino effect because you could only get. See, now I'm getting into the weeds. You could like only get Marvel Comics from one distributor, so then it kind of forced like the other distributors to like go out of business because they couldn't sell Marvel, and they were like like either number 1 or 2 of like the market share. So it like just had this cascading effect. I mean, basically like Marvel like fucked over like the direct market.
Yeah.
And as a result, like a lot of independent cartoonists. So like now, it's like almost impossible to like get into Diamond if you're like a small publisher. Whereas if you were just Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird in 1984 with like this weird comic book about Ninja Turtles, you could get in, and stores could like order it from there.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. But but like in a way, I mean like the dream for like more artistic comics was to like get the attention of like big books, like big like book publishers, and have this like respectability of this being this like literary kind of force. So like that came to pass, and like now, but like the dream was that there would just be this flood of books like Fun Home, just these like literary comics for adults, but that's like the least selling comics nowadays.
Right.
I mean it's it's like comics are still for kids. The like biggest selling comics now are all like YA or like comics for kids.
Right.
I mean
It's kind of like Stranger Things vibe to them.
Oh yeah,
Group of
like
teens
younger.
in the night.
But it's like so like it's like close to like what like Japan is. It's that like a lot more people read it, but like there's just so many different like genres. For like YA and like kids books. I mean like I have a friend who like lives in Boston. He goes by Raul III, Raul Gonzalez. An amazing author, and he's I think published like 15 books, but like they all sell like hundreds of thousands of copies, but like, I mean, he's almost like anonymous, like in the like adult comic book world, but like, in the kids book world, he's just like super famous and very wealthy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Does he write mostly YA?
Oh yeah, all YA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He did this book called Hitchhikers, like Lowriders in Space, which was like a series that he just illustrated. It was written by Kathy Camper, and then he has his own books that are more for kids called Vamos. Cool. And it's like a series of kids books.
Yeah.
So.
That's fucking sick. So can we hear one more time what the some of the details about the P-Town show
Oh yeah.
coming up?
Yeah, it's going to be the 8 paintings. Those 2 big ones, 24 by 24, and then the 6, 11 by 14 oil paintings, mostly landscapes. And yeah, the opening is July 5th. The gallery is called Bad Habit.
Cool.
It's on Commercial Street.
Fuck yeah. Congratulations. But yeah, no, I mean,
I'm excited. I mean, it's 4th of July weekend, so.
Yeah.
I'll be a lot of
yeah,
eyeballs.
actually, that's a good point. Yeah, that'll probably be hopping, that reception.
Especially
Yeah.
with
So
P-Town. Yeah.
Yeah, it should be fun.
I imagine they kind of have a little bit of a built-in reception community there. Probably like locals and
yeah.
travelers that go to all of them. So,
Oh, sure. I mean, it's like here. They have like the first
Fridays or whatever.
Yeah.
That's
That's
sick.
cool.
So, and then, people are walking. I mean, it's yeah. I mean, it's P-Town's, I mean, like I didn't start going there until I dated Alex, and, I really love it. I mean, but like you can tell that like the wealth, of course, is like really encroached upon there,
For sure, yeah.
as much as here. So, I mean, which is good for fine artists, So you want wealthy patrons,
That's true.
This is true.
I love wealthy patrons.
Just not tech bros.
Yeah, it's definitely a different
No
vibe.
taste.
Yeah.
Not
a lot of taste.
You want wealthy people with taste. You
Yeah.
don't want like, nouveau riche like cavemen.
It is very caveman-like, isn't it?
Yeah, they're just dolts. It's really depressing.
Yeah.
Well, hey.
Support coming through.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
can
I
where
know.
can people find you? The Twitter, Instagram, website?
Just Instagram these days.
Hell yeah.
It's
Yeah, Twitter's dead, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, X.
Yeah. I mean,
Right.
I still have my account, but I like rarely post.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's at Karl Karl Stevens, Stevens.
Fuck yeah, we'll link all
Arts,
that shit.
Arts, ART.
Well, yeah, man. Thank you so much. I mean, I say this literally every episode, but we pride ourselves on having a really fucking sick collection of people that we've talked to. So thank you for joining that catalog and for blessing our show with your story and your experience.
All these originals. This is so
Yeah,
cool.
it's literally a huge privilege to see all this shit.
You're very welcome.
So,
My favorite thing is talking about myself and showing my work, so this is
hell yeah.
a true pleasure.
Awesome.
Fuck yeah. All right, cool. So I'll wrap this up and then we'll, I don't fucking know. Hell yeah. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Boston Art Podcast is an independent DIY production by Brian Huntress and Theodora Earthworms. The information contained in this episode represents the views and opinions of the original creators or our guests, and does not represent any institution, organization, or business. Find us on Instagram at Boston Art Podcast, and tune in for a new episode every Friday. Thank you for listening.